Hey, before we start the video, I just wanted to let you guys know only 0.9% of you guys are subscribed. Okay, what's up with that? I'm not one of your $2 sluts. Season 2, Episode 3 starts with Tony going to pick up Meadow from a party she threw at her grandmother's house. She was drunk as hell, and Camilla stresses the fact that they need to give consequences to her. Tony says there's nothing they can really do because she's not 18 yet, so they just need to make sure she doesn't find out that they're powerless. Adriana's uncle comes to town, and his name is Richie Aprile. He went away for 10 years, so he hasn't really been on the scene, but he is still a made man. And the first thing that he does when he gets free is pays a visit to a pizza shop owner named Beansy. They used to do business together back in the day, but you kind of get the impression that they don't like each other. And it's confirmed that they don't when he tries to shake Beansy down, but Beansy has been a suck-up to Tony for the whole time that Richie has been away, so he's not really just gonna lay down.
I'll step up.
Back at the house, Janice is trying to convince them that Meadow shouldn't be punished at all for the party. Because as a girl, her whole biological thing is just to rebel, but they're really not buying that, and honestly, no parent should. But honestly, don't take parenting advice from me because I don't have kids, and secondly, I would risk it all for Meadow. But the punishment they decide to give her is no Discover card for 2 weeks, but they'll still give her $10 for gas. After that fiasco, Tony goes to dinner with the guys and gets filled in on the whole coffee pot situation with Beansy. He says he's seen Richie earlier and it was all sunshine and rainbows, but the conversation gets cut off by Dr. Malfi walking past and greeting him while she's with her friends. And honestly, I think this is one of the most embarrassing scenes in Sopranos history, so I'm just going to completely skip it. HBO Max is $15 a month. You can do that or keep watching. I'm sorry. We find out Dr. Malfi has a therapist of her own, and she is forced to confront her feelings about Tony. She resorted back to Janice and abandoned the whole doctor persona when she's seen Tony, so it makes you just think she might have not wanted him to see the professional side of her that night. She wrestles with her feelings with her therapist, but ultimately she decides that she needs to see Tony again. Her main concern about seeing Tony that she got resolved was the fact that one of her patients committed suicide in her absence. But her therapist reassures her that it would have been the same if she went on vacation or anything else. She was still in phone contact with Dr. Malfi. Just because she couldn't go to the actual office doesn't mean she still couldn't get her treatment. The fact that she didn't call or reach out or anything just means that she might not have wanted the help. Richie and Tony meet up in the mall after an unsuccessful conversation earlier in the episode. Richie gets mad that Tony just left him without saying a word earlier, but Tony says he's a government target, so it kind of makes sense for him not to talk about business in public. Richie says it's still disrespectful, and he tries to bring up things he did for Tony when they were kids. But Tony tells him that everything that was his before he went away will be his again. But Richie gets upset at that because he says if it's his stuff, it's owed to him. But Tony tries to explain that things are different now and you just can't go hitting people with coffee pots. He also says to back off Beansy and he's a good earner. And Richie says he's picking the word of a civilian over him.
You taking the side of a civilian over me? Jesus fucking Christ, Richie, I'm asking you to do me a favor. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, go fuck yourself.
Richie gets kind of mad at that, and he kind of baits Tony with a how's your sister doing, but he backs down immediately when he gets in his face, and he just asks legitimate questions about Janice. Speaking of Janice, she goes to Olivia's house for the first time since the party, and she gets excited about a disability check in the mail. Fun fact, it's also addressed to Olivia. Janice goes inside and sees the condition that the house was left in and absolutely loses it. She tries to talk to Camilla and Tony about how much of a disgrace it is and how disappointed she is in Meadow, while Tony is just trying to eat some honeycombs. Her hypocritical side starts to show as she says she should have been punished way longer than just a credit card, but her big mistake was saying if it was my kid. Tony fucking loses it and calls out Janice for why she's really here, just to pick the bones off of her mother's estate.
You come right into town like some Vishnu come lately trying to play the concerned daughter. Who the fuck are you kidding? You're just here to pick the friggin' bones.
There's a lot I could say right now that I am not gonna say.
A lot of bulls.
Uncle Junior talks to his doctor about the fall in the last episode not affecting any of his pre-existing health condition when Richie comes to visit him. He talks to him about being upset having to meet people in weird spots like Tony at the mall and Uncle Junior at the hospital. Uncle Junior, finding out that he met with Tony, gets suspicious and questions him about the meeting with him. Richie says it was more like a meeting with the Pope, and after Uncle Junior says, "What are you gonna do?" Richie says, "Whatever you say." So he's pledging his allegiance to Uncle Junior the second he got in town. He also goes to a housewarming party that the guys threw in his honor, but it's at the Bada Bing, so the footage just kinda scarce. But the message is he's just upset that Beansy isn't there, and he pays a visit to the pizza shop. He gets tired of Beansy acting like a tough guy and running from him the whole time, so he just hits him with his car. It turns out he actually lived from that, and Tony goes to see him. He expresses his anger with Tony for letting this happen, and the news that his doctor said he might not walk again is permeating in his head. Tony asks if he is 100% sure that it was Richie behind the wheel, and Beansy says 1,000,000. He also says he's lucky that he's not a rat because he knows damn well that this wasn't just a normal hit and run. Tony gets mad at that comment and says they're from the old school. They do their own dirty laundry, and Beans agrees. So Tony finds Richie at the mall, and he tells him as clear and concisely as he can. He is the boss, and he respected Richie's brother when he was the boss, so he's either going to listen to Tony or end up in the back of a trunk. And that's a pretty hard message to misunderstand, so Richie just agrees and walks away. And at the end of the episode, Tony goes to his mother's house to get the locks changed and sees Meadow inside cleaning up the mess that she made, showing at least some form of character development. So the last shot is just him walking away and looking above the camera.